It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
Super Bowl week, believe it or not, just days away from the big game. We'll talk about that. Plus, Mardi Gras pub crawl. Chris, in case you want to go pub crawling, the buses are officially back. We'll tell you about that, as well as basically the boating season is here, believe it or not. I know spring's not here yet, but the first boat show has come and went, and we'll give you an update on how well that went and what that means for boating at Lake of the Ozarks this season. Some annual awards to talk about, some special Board of Aldermen meeting in Lake Ozark, and Uncle Chris, we got some unfinished business in our NFL Pick'em League.
That's right. I'm about ready to win the whole thing for the second straight year, baby.
We'll see if the sun doesn't shine on that dog's butt for the second straight year. That and a whole lot more on this week's Cup of Coffee after this.
Hey everyone, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. Our President's Day of sales is going on, so that means it's time to save good money on great mattresses. Tempur-Pedics, Stearns & Foster, Sealy Posturepedics, they're all on sale. Come get a great sleep system and save tons of money. Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
All right, now on this week's show, all I'm going to really want to talk about is football.
Okay.
It's the last.
I'm good with that.
It's the last NFL game of the year, the big one, Super Bowl 57. This weekend, in case you're watching before Sunday, Chiefs and Eagles, boy, it is shaping up to be a really good Super Bowl.
Yeah, it really is. I think the last line I saw was about 1 point. Philadelphia's pretty much been a real slim favorite since the beginning. Both teams with identical records. They've been pretty much the best teams in their conferences pretty much all year long. The Chiefs, have been up at the top behind Buffalo for a long time. But this ought to be interesting. You never know with Kansas City, right? And Pat Mahomes, you just never know who's going to show up. Is it going to be the mediocre Chiefs or is it going to be the best team in the world Chiefs? It's hard to tell.
And did you see some of the numbers and how similar? I think the exact same amount of points scored this season.
Yeah.
Exact same record. Both the one seed in their conference. I mean, there's a pretty long list. It was ironic to see how similar. And like you said, the spread is so close. What I was kind of surprised about was the over-under was like 50.5.
Yeah.
I'm going over on that if it's me.
Yeah, it seems to me they're going to score more points than that. Again, in Super Bowls, you really never know what you're going to get because it's kind of all or nothing. If a team starts falling behind, they'll start going crazy on fourth down and stuff like that just to get back in the game because they have nothing to lose. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And then I learned this week that the Eagles head coach was let go by Andy Reid when he came into Kansas City. So there's a little extra bad blood there. So that'll make it fun.
Oh, Andy Reid's been let go a handful of times in his career as well. So he knows all about that. And he's bounced back. So I want to ask, you said that you never know what Chiefs are going to show up. Well, unless you buy into the conspiracy theory that it's all rigged and it's all fixed, and in that case, you would know exactly what to expect. You heard that rumor been going around more and more?
Yeah, and I don't really doubt it. I think the NFL has the power to do that.
How would you be able to make one-handed catches and weird deflections and stuff?
You can't really affect that, but you can affect the officials, the referees, the calls made, trying to help one team more than the other team. I think that might happen in the NFL just to keep those television ratings up. I'm pretty sure it happens in the NBA.
Why can they not make Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills their Cinderella then?
Maybe they need to pay him a little more, a little under the table a little bit more.
Well, all I know is there is a lot up for grabs, and it's going to be a good one. Two really good stories, not just the Eagles head coach let go from Kansas City when Andy Reid got there, but Jalen Hurts, and you're starting to get to see just how incredible of not just football player, but off the field, how inspiring Jalen Hurts truly is from his time in Alabama, of course, getting replaced in the national championship game, and then rooting on Tua Tagovailoa like a good teammate would in the most challenging circumstances for a young man, and the way you handle that, go to Oklahoma, get drafted, and
I think he won the Heisman too, didn't he?
Yeah,
At Oklahoma. So he gets kicked out of Alabama, or leaves Alabama because lost his job, goes to Oklahoma, wins the Heisman freaking trophy. Now he goes to the NFL. He's one of the best quarterbacks I mean, it's amazing.
And even when he got drafted, there was so many naysayers that his style of quarterback will not be successful. Terrible job by the Eagles. And you remember his first year, his rookie year, where he started a handful of games. As we were headed into year 2, the national media was already talking about Hurts isn't the guy. Do the Eagles draft a quarterback in last year's draft? And so it's funny how you look at all the things he's had to overcome, never really let the doubters control his mentality. And his story's great, but I got to tell you, I'm not rooting for him this weekend.
Me neither. It's hard to root for the Eagles, although it's tough to bet against them, you know. But again, you just never know with the Chiefs, which Chiefs team shows up.
I'll tell you what Chiefs team is going to show up, the best version
Let's
of
hope
these
so.
Kansas City Chiefs. All right, so our first story is we got to move ahead on football. We'll get back to it in a minute, so don't worry. But for you Mardi Grasers who love the annual Lake of the Ozarks pub crawl around Mardi Gras, you probably missed the buses the last few years. There's been some restrictions and some changes. Well, according to the press release on February 1st from the Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, the buses are back and will be running Saturday, February 25th for the pub crawl. This year's event, sponsored by Bad Donkey Tattoo, will take place over a 3-day period, February 24th, 5th, and 26th. And will include a pre- and kickoff party. Wristbands are $20, Chris. That'll get you on and off the buses at all the locations for all 3 days. The event chairman, Cole Bradbury, said, "We're happy to have the buses back. They're a big reason many people travel from all over the state to participate in one of the state's biggest pub crawls. The last couple of years, we've had to pivot, and we're looking forward to getting back to the traditional crawl many are used to." That's a really fun event, and they're even going to have a kickoff party Friday evening at Dog Days. And, really, we've always kind of called it the unofficial kickoff to the season. It's the end of February. Once March is here, look out, the season's here. So,
well, it's so cool that they have the buses back, because for me, that's a key. If you're going to be out partying, you don't want to be driving around, right? I mean, stay off those streets, have somebody driving you around, and this way that happens. I think it just makes it all the better.
Yeah, and it's wild. Not just Mardi Gras, but then you look at St. Patrick's Day. Those few weeks right there become really a big 3 to 4 week span for the lake. Mardi Gras gets us started, and then St. Pat's. I don't know if you've noticed the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's kind of become Mid-Missouri's mecca for St. Patty's Day celebration. Good luck getting on and off the historic Bagnell Dam Strip. And, of course, that's March 17th. We'll have the St. Patty's Day Parade live for you that day. And it gets bigger and bigger each year. So big things on the horizon here over the next month as we start to welcome some of these spring events. And can't forget Polar Plunge in just I think that's next weekend, believe it or not.
That makes me shiver just thinking about it, man.
I got to give a shout out to JT Geralt and Zach Paul. Those two always do the 24-hour Super Plunge challenge so you can raise more money. JT took it home last year with like $38,000. Wow. I've seen all these fundraisers where Facebook friends. I mean, I'm not cool enough to actually be his friend in real life, but I am his Facebook friend, so I get to see all these fundraisers, and that's such a cool event. So this is one of my favorite times of the year. You got football rounding up, hockey playoffs are right around the corner, and then as far as the lake goes, high school basketball season is exciting, and then all of these spring events right around the corner, and that also includes our boat show. We just wrapped up with the Overland Park Boat Show.
Yeah, boy, that was a huge success. So the reports are in. More than 8,000 people went to that Overland Park Convention Center last weekend, annual Overland Park Boat Show, organized by the Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealers Association. Of course, reports show that a higher number of attendees this year than they've had in the last decade, right? So the count was 8,436, which was through the roof. Marine Max staff member noted, the supply shortage the last few years fueled that buying frenzy of boats. And so they're saying that's kind of settled down since the inventory is up now. Boat dealers have a much, much bigger inventory. So the buying craze has kind of died down, but the interest is still there. People still really, really fired up about boating and everything. And apparently they're saying one of the most exciting new technology things with the boats is the joystick, right? Apparently, you can, it's not just a throttle now. You can joystick it around, I guess. I've never had
Okay,
a boat
so-
with a joystick.
So
I
they've
don't
had joysticks. What makes this new is Mercury released the first ever joystick that can be used on a single engine pontoon.
there you go.
So that's what makes it cool. So now you essentially have a throttle
Yeah.
on a single engine tri-tune out there. It's like, what's next?
I like that, man. Absolutely. That'd be kind of cool, right? I don't
And
know.
so you look at those numbers, attendance record setting over the last 10 years. And so I talked with Mike Carnegie, who's the executive director of the Lake Ozark Marine Dealers Association. And when I asked him about this to follow up on Lake Expo's story, he said, yes, we had record attendance.
Yeah.
And so it led me to believe, and I was like, well, so when you say that, Mike, does that mean that sales weren't as good? And he kind of mimicked what the Lake Expo article said. He goes, maybe not as many closed contracts. He said, and that's because people are now able to be a little more selective. There's not as many, like you said, rash buys. You got to rush and buy because you don't know if
Yeah.
you're going to get it for a year.
You don't know if you'll ever see another boat again, right?
And
yeah.
so, whereas it may not lead to as many immediate sales, that is not necessarily a bad thing. Kyle Kelly, who's the owner at Kelly's Port, said, as a matter of fact, he said, I consider that to be a good thing. We had a record boat show. He said, and although people aren't signing contracts as immediately, he said, I feel like that's a good thing. It brings integrity back into the industry,
Yep.
will allow people to be a little more savvy with their decisions. And he said that here is a figure in the RV, power sports, and boating industry that through the last 2 years of COVID, of 10 people interested in buying a boat during those pandemic years, only 4 of those 10 actually bought or ended up making a purchase and having it delivered, meaning there's still 6 of those 10 out there. And with the record attendance, it only means that interest in boating around the Lake of the Ozarks is at an all-time high. And Kyle also said that the national feel is the exact same thing, that anything with power sports, high engines, RV, ATV, and especially boats are going to be massive. And like he said, manufacturers have opened back up slots so they know they're going to have boats delivered at a reasonable time.
Yep.
Because although the sales frenzy was good for a lot of these marine dealers, Chris, telling somebody that you're going to get your boat in August and then not knowing if it's going to be next year, that's stressful.
Very,
and
for
so
everybody,
It
yeah.
brings integrity back. It brings a quicker process. When you buy your boat, you're going to get it to your dock quicker, and that bodes well for everyone. And Kyle says they're still getting a decent amount of backlog for boats. And although they might have anticipated this big bubble burst, he's not really seeing it, and he doesn't anticipate that it's going to come. So all things point towards it being another record-setting boat season at the Lake of the Ozarks. And of course, they've also got the St. Charles Boat Show next weekend, and that's a big one, which they said they plan on going gangbusters and having another record-setting show.
Yeah, that's the February 23rd through the 26th. So that coming right up. If you missed the first one, want to go to this one, that's where you go at St. Charles.
So all things are pointing towards a great season here at the Lake of the Ozarks. Lord Deck, who's big and involved in planning and some of the economic development, they gave out their annual awards. And of course, we told you about Central Ozarks Medical Center winning the Large Business Partner of the Year. The Small Business Partner of the Year was presented to Bryce Lake with Save-A-Lot in Versailles. The Emerging Venture of the Year was presented to Lake Space Co-working Lounge. And we got some pictures here courtesy of Casey Cloak and Lordeck. Speaking of Casey Cloak, she actually won Employee of the Year. The Nonprofit Partner of the Year went to the Lake of the Ozarks Council of Local Government. And the Business Person of the Year was presented to Amanda Hayes with Hayes Construction. So congratulations to all winners. And Lordeck, such a great organization. I mean, they're very vital as the lake is in this wouldn't say this, it's an important stage with all these new developments, and Lordeck is very involved in ensuring a lot of the processes and procedures are taken, and so we can ensure those developments. And speaking of big developments and projects, did you see the Lake of the Ozarks Board of Aldermen had I guess you'd call surprise or unexpected meeting on Monday?
I did. I heard about that. Had to do with the gambling situation, right? The casino situation.
Yeah, and so when I saw that, obviously in Lake Ozark, I immediately thought of the Osage Nation Casino,
Right, yeah.
Which was not the case, believe it or not. According to the KRMS news article that came out Sunday night, a special meeting of the Lake of the Ozarks Board of Aldermen took place Monday, as we changed a couple of words now in past tense, but to focus on the possibility of a casino boat gambling boat being located within the city limits, but it would have to be a gambling boat on the water. Now, the meeting considered one published item, and it was a resolution in support of the Senate Joint Resolution currently making its way through this year's Missouri's General Assembly. As written, the resolution calls for voters in November of 24 to decide the issue of the state authorizing one additional casino license for a boat to be located along the Osage River between the Missouri River and Bagnell Dam. Now, currently, the Senate Judiciary Resolution has been read twice and since referred to the Emerging Issues Committee for a hearing to take place Tuesday, which was, the day we recorded. Now, at Monday, the Special Board of Aldermen meeting to support the issue, Harrison Fry, the city administrator, told me the Board of Aldermen unanimously passed that vow of support, and so I asked him, I said, so what exactly does that mean that they voted unanimously to pass a resolution of support so they could deliver to the Senate Emerging Issues Committee during Tuesday's meeting?
Yeah.
And so I said, what does that mean? He said, well, I want to make clear this is unrelated to the Osage Nation and relates to the amendment on gaming laws in Missouri. Next step would be, as the Senate committee reviews this, the resolution approved by our Board of Aldermen will be presented as an item of support for its passage. If the committee sees fit, it will then go to the Senate General for approval. If successful, then the Missouri House will go through another process very similar, and if all steps move forward through the state Congress, it'll ultimately be a ballot issue for the voters of Missouri in November of 24 to determine whether or not to allow a licensed casino to operate on the Osage River, again, between Missouri River and the Bagnell Dam. So they did vote to pass it because they feel, according to Fry, that it could have an impact on our area long term, and they think it's appropriate for the decision to be in the hands of all Missourians. So this is not an issue that's going to be handled just by the voters here. This would go on the general ballot in November of 24 next year for the state to decide, will we allow a 13th or 14th casino, which would be on the water. Now, you also could have the Osage Nation, which is a different, meaning we could have two casinos in the next handful of years. And the Board of Aldermen in Lake Ozark unanimously voted to offer this support. And so I'll be interested to see some of the community's feedback and, what they feel as they see this news broke.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And again, this is completely separate from the Osage Indian Nation Casino, which is moving along, progressing according to their plan. They've got to go through different channels to get theirs done, but of course they've already purchased the land and they're already providing money to local charities and whatnot, as that thing moves along. So we could have two casinos coming to the area because we know where the Indian Nation Casino would be, right across the street from Menards, basically in that part of Lake Ozark. This one would be on the water, below the dam and before the Missouri River, between the Bagnell Dam and Jeff City somewhere, which would be very interesting. Do you think the area can only handle one casino, or do you think the area could handle two casinos?
I don't know how to answer that. I feel like if it's a riverboat gambling casino, it's going to be much smaller in scale when you look at something like the Osage Nation proposed development. But if you can handle one, I don't see why you couldn't handle two. And also when you look at between Bagnell Dam on the Osage River adjacent to Missouri River, there's a lot of area between there and Jefferson City that leaves it open. It may not be right on the lake or right next to the dam, and so it could be,
could be closer
away
to Jeff City than it is to Lake Ozark, quite possibly.
But I will say, if you could handle it, the area which I believe it can support and handle a large casino project, there's no reason to believe that we couldn't handle a smaller river boat project.
I agree 100%. I think if there's two casinos, they'll both do very well around here. So I don't think that's an issue at all. And I think there's a decent chance that both of these casinos will end up getting done.
When you say that Yeah, I was going to say, be careful. In my younger days, I loved to go to the casino. I've grown out of that with the closest one being an hour and a half away, but I'm sitting here thinking, with a couple of this close, I might be wondering, what's going on here?
Yeah. See, and I never had that issue. I liked my money too much just to give it away, so I've never been a gambler, so I don't really get that. But but people come here to have a good time, I mean, this is one of the vacation spots in the whole country. I think the casinos would do just fine.
I mean, what's more fun than leveraging your home and all of your savings and maxing out credit cards? It's like, are we having fun yet?
Oh man, no.
I don't think that casinos are fun. And I'll tell you, they don't exist to lose money. I promise you that.
Yeah, the house always wins.
That's true. You know who wrote the book? The house.
Yeah, there you go.
Everyone always tells you to play by the book, and I'm like, wait, that sounds backwards. The house wrote the book, and the house always wins. All right, so we're going to get back into sports, one of my favorite segments. It's time for our weekly Central Ozarks Medical Center's Hometown Heroes, and it's only fitting, Chris, that this week it goes to what I consider to be the greatest quarterback of this era.
Yeah.
Patrick stinking Mahomes, baby.
Go.
Drafted in 2017.
So he's your Patrick Mahomes is your COMC Hometown Hero of the Week?
Not just my hometown hero. I'd imagine he's the state's hometown hero this week. It's Super Bowl week. And listen, drafted in 2017 from Texas Tech. His first year starting was in 2018 when he took over as starter. This is his 5th season. So, Chris, what has he done in those 5 years? I'm going to tell you, okay?
What has he done? Has he done anything?
Hosted 5 conference championships, all 5 years. This is his 3rd trip to the Super Bowl. Should be 4, if you remember in 18, the D Ford offside, Tom Brady interception, 2018 AFC Championship game. He won a Super Bowl, could be 2 as we said, won a Super Bowl MVP, could be 2, and probably going to be 2 after Sunday on both of those. He was the 2020 Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. He's 64-16 as a starter in the regular season in 5 seasons. And if you look at the stats in the first 2 and the youngest 2, and they go on and on and on. And yet people, I mean, even you, Uncle Chris, right here early on this season, say, I think the Chiefs have kind of run out. They're kind of getting on their last leg. They're not stepping up to the plate. And I think that it's easy for people like you, me, and Chiefs Nation to almost take him for granted. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, and rightfully so, Chris, because this is really the most talented pool of quarterbacks the league has ever seen.
Great bunch of, absolutely, no doubt. You think about all of those kids are superstar quarterbacks, really.
And that's why it's even more impressive that Mahomes continues to stand above the rest in the midst of this stacked NFL quarterback era. 5 consecutive conference championships, 3rd Super Bowl, could be 4th trip, in just 5 seasons, Chris, as a starting quarterback. Mahomes is already a sure ballot, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep.
You couldn't argue it. Even if he retired right now and didn't play Sunday, you could not take away a Hall of Fame on the first ballot from him with what he's done. And he's just now hitting his prime. His commitment to Kansas City, the state of Missouri, when paired with his unrivaled on-field success, make him the best in the game today. And really, over the last 5 seasons, no quarterback has come close to having a 5-year run, let alone in their first 5 years. To be honest, not even the GOAT did that in his first 5 years, Tom Brady. So I think it's time to put Patty Mahomes where he belongs. Labeled the greatest, not just player in the NFL today, the greatest athlete in the world, and he hasn't even began his 6th season as quarterback.
Not so fast, my friend. If he loses this Super Bowl, he'll just be another Jim Kelly. He'll just be another great mediocre quarterback.
Well, Jim Kelly never won a Super Bowl, never won an MVP.
He has won a Super Bowl. That helps Patrick Mahomes.
And he also won an MVP. I'm telling you right now, we will never, ever see somebody do what Patrick Mahomes has done over the first 5 years of his career, and he's doing it while the quarterback talent is as good as it's ever been, and it's not even close.
You know, to me, the best thing Patrick Mahomes, I mean, and he is amazing, right? Incredible arm and weird passes all over the place, stuff. But I think the greatest thing he did this year was come back from that ankle injury. I mean, those things hurt. Those things are terribly painful. He came back, came in the game, and I think that is what coalesced the Chiefs around him, and the Chiefs took it to another level because of their leader, Patrick Mahomes, toughing it out on that injury.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck that big word you just said means, but I'm all about it, and I agree. And I guarantee you, if you were impressed with him coming back from that ankle injury, you're going to love what he does this Sunday.
Let's hope.
Patrick Mahomes this week. Central Ozarks Medical Center, hometown hero, and my prediction for the Super Bowl MVP, baby.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
All right, so are you guys ever going to submit your picks? Because
Yeah.
I've already taken the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I've already given you my score. 54 is my total. It's 31-23. KC's going to win. Mahomes with an MVP.
But you're not in the running for champion.
I am, because guess what? There's 10 points for the game with the money pick for one, 5 points for the total score. You guys all dancing, prissing around. You're going to mess up, and I'm going to get 16 or 17 points. You guys are all going to get 0, and I'm going to rise to stardom.
Okay, whatever. Good luck with all that.
You're not convinced, are you? Are you worried?
Not at all. No.
Are you worried about Kevin or Andrew,
I'm
though?
jumping over Kevin and Andy. I'm going to win this thing for the second straight year. No doubt about it, baby.
I got to be honest, I don't like your chances.
Really? Okay.
My money's on Kevin. My money's not on either of the Lake TV guys. You know,
Yeah.
You guys are too worried about one another.
Well, you know, and if I don't win, it's because I felt bad for Kevin or Andy, and I let you win, right?
So at least he's proclaimed the victory ahead of time and also giving you a scapegoat in case he doesn't
That's
win.
right.
The sympathetic side of Uncle Chris.
It's the CYA method, right? You know.
Cry me a river.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. All right, so got to talk real quick about Mizzou basketball. Man, 17-5 playing pretty well. They lost their 6th, though, against Mississippi State. Mississippi State playing well,
They are
but
playing well.
Missouri just shot terrible.
Yeah, but this Mississippi State team is really good. I think they knocked off like Alabama last week, so they can play really well. But this Mizzou team they're playing so well, they're already basically a shoe-in for the big dance. They're going to go to the tournament. They're playing well. They've got some great wins. So impressed what first-year Coach Gates is doing there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I was surprised because Mississippi State came in to that game against Missouri 1-7 in conference play.
Yeah.
They had been kind of awful, but they were catching their stride, and they gave Missouri all they wanted, ended up beating them pretty well. So Missouri 17-6 now. Wednesday, they'll be back at it. Actually, Tuesday night they played versus South Carolina. We didn't know how that went because we recorded Tuesday. Saturday it gets tough at number 4 Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then next Tuesday on Valentine's Day at Auburn. So tough sledding for Missouri coming up. You're going to find out how serious of a contender are they? Are they going to sneak in as maybe a 12 seed, or could they possibly get in as an at-large bid? I mean, that'll all be determined here.
Yeah, being in the SEC, there's so many great teams. I mean, you probably got 7 or 8 teams in the top 25 from the SEC. It's rough, you know.
And another 3 that have gone into the top 25 and already fallen out of the top
like
25.
Mizzou. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Arkansas there. I mean, Auburn in and out. So be interesting. A couple of things. A lot of great stuff happening on Lake TV right now. Of course, on our Community Spotlight show.
Yeah.
Lake West Chamber of Commerce Director Mike Koningsman. He's talking about, I believe, their upcoming Lake West Expo, correct?
Yeah, well, that and St. Patrick's Day and all the big activities on the west side of the lake and stuff like that. So he'll fill us in on all of that.
And I'll tell you what, that is great. Catch that at 9:02, 3:02, and 7:02 every single day with new episodes coming every Tuesday. Also, basketball season, gotta tell you, had a lot of fun. Friday and Monday, for the first time ever, we had a doubleheader featuring girls and guys games. Want to give a shout out to Chris Caesar with Arrowhead Title. We had Osage and Versailles, the Heritage Building, Friday.
that
was
was great.
awesome.
Yep.
What a game in the guys game.
Oh, man,
I mean,
great game. Yeah.
And then Monday night, we were in Max Creek for the first time ever,
Yep.
guys and girls. Got a clean sweep there from the home team. It was just greatness. And then Tuesday, you guys are right back at it, Blair Elks and Eldon, and then 2 games to end the season. Before we go, don't forget, Happy Hour with DJ Kyle, Chris.
Great show.
I'm telling you what, It is catching so much momentum. On this week's show, Casey Cloak talks about their expo coming up. Ike Skelton gives an update from the commission, and on location at the brand new coffee house off KK as DJ Kyle tries out a little barista action. Should be great. Don't miss it right here on Lake TV. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Cup of Coffee. For Uncle Chris, I'm Wild Will. Go Chiefs!